This is the last one, episode 5 of 5. What does it mean to be well? A series that I made for Mental Health Awareness Month. Whether you've been here since episode 1 or if this is your first stop, I'm glad you're here. Links to all 5 episodes are in the description if you want the full journey. But this one also stands on its own. Today is where everything that this series has been building towards actually lands. We've named the gap, we've looked at the church, we've gotten uncomfortably personal about self love. We've looked at what the research shows, and today I want to give you the framework, the architecture behind it all, and tell you what I think you should do with it. My name is Jen Collier. I work at the intersection of applied positive psychology, Christian psychology, and coaching psychology. Rightly ordered, love the Lord and watch what happens. That's the whole argument of the model from my research. It took me 5 episodes to build it, but that's the thesis. And I want to spend today showing you what it actually means. 4 things we now know. 1, there's a gap between not being sick and actually flourishing. And most people and most systems live and work in that gap without acknowledging it exists. 2, the church holds that space with extraordinary care and is still catching up to what the full journey requires towards flourishing. 3, self-love sourced from the wrong place doesn't work, and the consequences of getting that wrong are significant and specific. 4, is measurable. It has documented mechanisms and is something that we can pursue with intention. If you hold these 4 things together, a question emerges. So what's the framework? What is the architecture? And that's where we're going to get to today. Luke 10, verses 27 and 28. A lawyer asks Jesus what he must do to inherit eternal life. And Jesus asks him what the law says. The lawyer answers, and I want you to notice this because it matters. The lawyer answers, love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your strength, and with all your mind, and your neighbor as yourself. That's the lawyer speaking, drawing from Deuteronomy and Leviticus. And Jesus responds in verse 28, you've answered correctly. Do this, and you will live. I'm being precise about that attribution because its intellectual honesty requires it. Jesus affirms the commandments here. He doesn't originate it in this passage, although in Matthew 22, it's completely attributed to Jesus. Regardless, the affirmation carries everything. Do this and you will live. Look at the structure of that command. There are 7 distinct dimensions in it. 3 that name who receives and gives love, the Lord, yourself, others, and 4 that describe how we love God with the whole person, with heart, soul, mind, and strength. 7 dimensions, and they're not equal in position. They're ordered intentionally. The framework that I've been building, the one that came out of my dissertation research for my master's, and that I've been describing in the pieces across the series, is called the Greatest Commandment Model. And here it is. Again, this is not a framework for salvation. That only comes from a saving relationship with Jesus. This is a psychological model for Christian flourishing, grounded in science and informed by theology. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus, stop what you are doing right away and go and read the good news at luke1028.com/the-good-news. If you do have a saving relationship, however, continue on. So here's the model. Love the Lord is the primary organizing dimension. Everything flows from that. Under love the Lord sit the 4 modifying dimensions of heart, soul, mind, and strength. These describe how we love God with the whole person, not just spiritually, cognitively, emotionally, physically, the whole self offered to him. Then there's the 2 horizontal and relational dimensions below. Love yourself and love others. These are pure dimensions, equal in dignity, ordered in sequence. And they're not subordinate to love the Lord in importance. They're downstream from it causally. The love flows from God through your rightly ordered relationship with Him, yourself, and out to others. And do this, and you will live, are not additional they're the practice and the telos, the doing and the direction, the command and the promise. I want to be clear about something because this ordering can be easily misread. Love of the Lord is first, not because God needs the top spot, although He deserves it, or because loving Him is more morally important than loving people. It's first because He is the source. Your worth comes from Him. Your capacity for love comes from Him. If he is not at the source, everything downstream is unstable because you're trying to build love out of something that isn't capable of generating. Love yourself is second, not because you matter more than others, but because a healthy relationship with yourself is a precondition for sustainable love for others. If you don't have a stable, grounded, imago Dei rooted sense of your own worth, you can give until you're empty and still call it faithfulness. A quick note here, though, and this is important. There are absolutely times when God calls us to love others at great, great cost to ourselves. The ordering here is not to say that we can only love others if our tank is properly topped off, right? The ordering is saying that our love for self is a vessel for the love that we can truly pour out on others. Loving others is third, not because other people matter least, but because sustainable, Christ-like, agapic love of others is what flows naturally when the first two are in the right order. It doesn't deplete, it multiplies. It looks different, it feels different. So get that order right, and the whole thing works. Get it wrong, and you know exactly what happens because you've probably lived the consequences of a disordered version of this. I know I certainly have. So after the boat, which we talked about, I think, in the last episode, episode 4, something shifted in how Justin and I moved through the world. When you've already sold everything, moved towards the water, not quite onto the water, watched a Cat 5 hurricane take the plan apart in front of you, and then watched God rebuild something better out of the wreckage, the threshold for saying yes gets a lot lower. We had learned in the most concrete possible way what it felt like to cut the lines to the dock and to trust him. So when he started moving again, we were paying attention. About 5 years later, we found ourselves praying again about what was next. Justin's job opened a door to the UK, and it felt like a natural step, not a leap, a step. And so we said yes. England is much more similar to the US than one might expect, and also way more different than you could anticipate until you're actually living in it. The obvious things that you prepare for: missing your people, finding a church home, navigating a new culture, learning that the food actually has a very unfair reputation, and the pubs have a very fair one. What you don't prepare for is the subtler things, the lingering low-grade anxiety that shows up about 3 months in, the sneak attacks of insecurity when you don't know how something works and everyone around you apparently does, the embarrassment of the small things, the wrong word for something, the wrong cue, the wrong tone, a fuzzy dis-ease that's genuinely hard to name because nothing's actually wrong. You're just not rooted. And what I found in that unrooted season was that the things I had always leaned on for stability, my community, my cultural fluency, my sense of knowing the ropes, they were not actually my foundation. They were scaffolding. They were useful, good, important scaffolding, but not the thing holding the structure up. God used that season to do something that I did not expect. He stripped away enough of the familiar that I could finally see what was underneath it. And what was underneath it was Him. Not as a concept and not as a theological proposition, but as the actual ground that I was standing on. He was the anchor, not the dock. We also found a church community there that challenged us at a depth that we had not experienced before. And without the noise of our ordinary life, the busyness, familiar rhythms, 100 small things that fill in the space, Justin and I reconnected with each other in a way that felt almost like meeting each other again for the first time, which, if you've been married for any length of time, you'll understand is actually an extraordinary gift. What the UK gave us underneath all of it was clarity about what was actually Jesus and what was just the cultural wrapper we had always assumed was part of the package, about what held when everything else was stripped away, about what rightly ordered love looks like when you have nothing to fall back on but the Lord and each other. And it turns out that's enough. It's more than enough. I want to close the testimony arc I've been carrying through this series. There was a version of me who searched for love, desperately, destructively, from every available source and came up empty every single time. Not because I was broken beyond repair, but because the sources weren't capable of holding the weight that I was putting on them. You cannot fill a God-shaped space with human-sized things, and I tried it for years. But then I was found, and that's the word that matters. I was found. I didn't find my way to Jesus through wisdom or searching or spiritual readiness. I was a lost sheep, and He came for me. And what He offered, a love that was covenantal, that was prior to my performance, that was rooted in who He is and how He had made me rather than what I had done, that was the first thing I had ever encountered that was actually capable of holding the weight. And from that source, over time, a rightly ordered life began to grow. Not perfectly, not without setbacks, but in the right direction. Love the Lord. From that, a healthier relationship with myself, with my own worth, my own body, my own humanity. From that, love of others that didn't deplete me, that I could give from overflow than from desperation. That's the model. Not as an abstraction, as a life. My life, with all its chaos and detours, is the evidence that this architecture works when you let it. Do this and you will live. The Greek word there, zao, carries the same weight as John 10:10. I have come that they may have life and have it abundantly. Same word, same promise. This is not a formula. It is not do this and feel better. It's not do this and avoid suffering. It's not do this and attain salvation. The series I just spent 5 episodes making is not a promise of circumstantial ease. Flourishing includes suffering. It included the hurricane. It included loss. It included the year of not knowing where you're going to land. What Jesus is describing is participation in a kind of life, whole, integrated, rightly ordered, rooted in divine love, that's not contingent on your circumstances. That is available in the difficulty and not only after it. That is in part what he came to offer, and it's worth pursuing with everything that you have. I built an assessment around this framework. The Greatest Commandment assessment measures where you are right now across all 7 dimensions of the model: how you're loving God with your heart, your soul, your mind, your strength, how you're relating to your own worth and dignity, and how you're extending that love outward to others. It's not a personality test. It doesn't tell you who you are. It tells you where you are right now relative to the life that Jesus described. That's a different question, and I think it's a more useful one. The assessment's free, it takes about 15 minutes, and it gives you a full narrative report about your own life. It's launching this summer, and the waitlist is at Luke 10:28. Love the Lord and watch what happens. I'm not going to tell you exactly what will happen because I don't really know, and neither does anyone else. That's the invitation of it and the adventure. Trust the architecture, engage it with intention, bring your whole self, heart, soul, mind, strength, and see what grows. That's what I've been describing for 5 episodes. Not a program, not a self improvement plan, and not a wellness framework with Christian language that's layered on top. It's an invitation to rightly ordered love and to the life on the other side of it. If this series did something in you, if any of these 5 episodes named something you've been carrying or surfaced a question you haven't known how to ask, the assessment is your next step. It's a tool I built specifically to help you figure out where you actually are. The waitlist is at luke1028.com. The Love Yourself Pathway Guide is in the description if episode 3 is still sitting with you. And there's a free forgiveness pathway that you can also download there, because we feel like it's so important for people to experience forgiveness that we want you to have access to that right away. And I want to say thank you, genuinely. This series was personal for me in ways that I don't always let things be public. So thank you for being here for it. I hope it was worth your May. Before I let you go, I want to give you one thing to do right now. Before that next video plays, before you swipe on your phone, before you open another tab, before you do anything else, stop. Both hands flat on whatever surface is in front of you, even if it's your lap. Take one breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And just sit in the silence for 60 seconds. Not to think, not to plan what you're going to do differently, just to be in the presence of the one who ordered it all. Because he is not in a hurry, and you don't have to be either. Go when you're ready. Be blessed.